let's do that, and we'll have somebody do 104 to 107 after that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
So lecture 97. So we started with a recap of semi-lattices. So we said that there are three ways to define a semi-lattice. We could specify the set of values and the meet operator. The meet operator should satisfy its own three properties: the properties of what idempotency, commutativity, and associativity. Um, we could also specify the set of values and the partial order. The partial order is basically the less than equal to operator. The less than equal to operator should satisfy its own three properties. And the third way we could define a semi-lattice is via a semi-lattice diagram. A semi-lattice diagram is a digraph with no cycles and having the top and bottom nodes. The top and bottom nodes might not necessarily exist. For example, if the set of values is the set of integers and the meet operator is the max operator, then the semi-lattice diagram would be minus infinity arrow, then going down, and then we'll have -2, -1, 0, 1, and going down and down, and we get infinity. So clearly this has no top or bottom node. Those are minus infinity and infinity, which are not defined. Semi-lattice. So there might be some DFAs for which semi-lattices might become very large. For example, for some DFAs like constant propagation available definitions, there might be 2 power n distinct values for a program with n variables or definitions. So we can define smaller semi-lattices and define a product of those semi-lattices to obtain larger semi-lattices. So here we are defining a new operation called product of semi-lattices, whose input is two semi-lattices and the output is another new semi-lattice. If the input of the so we take two semi-lattices as input, v comma the less than equal to operator 1 and v2 comma less than equal to operator 2. These are two semi-lattices. Their product will be a new semi-lattice whose set of values will be the Cartesian product of those two sets of values of those two previous semi-lattices and a new less than equal to operator, which is defined as such. If we have two elements of the new set of values v1 cross v2, y1 comma y2 comma x1 comma x2, which is and if we apply their new less than equal to operator on this, then x1 comma x2 less than equal to y1 comma y2 if and only if x1 less than equal to y1 and x2 less than equal to y2. So this is how we can define a DFA. There is an equivalent way that we can define the product of two semi-lattices using the meet operator, where we can define a new meet operator where x1 comma x2 meet y1 comma y2 is equal to the pair x1 meet 1 of y1, where meet 1 is the meet operator of the first semi-lattice, and x2 meet 2 comma y2, where meet 2 is the meet operator of the second semi-lattice. Then we discussed an example on this for where v is the set of definitions, and we can v is a set of definitions for many DFAs like available definitions DFA. So to define the semi-lattice of this, we can define separate smaller semi-lattices for each definition di. We can define a semi-lattice for which we have a single top value, that is the empty set, and a single bottom value, that is that definition itself. Then we can so we have separate small semi-lattices for each definition, and we can define the net semi-lattice for the total program by just taking products of all these lattices for each the definitions. So basically, if we have two semi-lattices for di and dj, then we can define the Cartesian product of those two semi-lattices by which would have a top value as the empty set. The top value is the empty set, the bottom value as the set of both those definitions di and dj, and in the middle we'll have two nodes, di and dj, and they'll make a diamond-like structure. Okay. Okay, so yeah, that's the lecture 97 completed. Lecture 98. Semilattice height. Okay, so we defined a new concept called semilattice height, which is the largest number of greater than relations that would fit in a descending chain. Um, different descending chain of the semilattice. Largest possible change of the chain of the form x0 greater than x1 greater than x2 dot 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 greater than some xn, where all xi's belong to the set of values in the semilattice. So here n would be the height of the semilattice. For a totally ordered semilattice, totally ordered semilattice, where every possible element in the set of values can be compared by using the less than equal to operator, the height of the semilattice would simply be equal to number of elements in the set of values. For a partial order where not every element can be compared with the less than equal to operator, then it would be, then the height of the semilattice would be less than equal to number of elements in V, in the set of values V. If we can define this height using the semilattice diagram, which is basically the height of the longest path length in the semilattice diagram. Okay, so we discussed a couple of examples. For example, if we have a semilattice diagram, true going down false, true arrow down false, its height is obviously 2. Then we discussed a couple more examples, where we just find out the height by just finding out what is the longest path length in the semilattice diagram. Another example is where for the reaching definitions DFA, the height of the semilattice diagram is equal to the number of definitions. The live variable DFA, the height of the semilattice diagram would be the number of variables. One of the properties that we require for the fixed point iteration to converge is that the semilattice height has to be finite. And the time of the fixed point iteration is proportional to the height of the semilattice. I mean, this is kind of intuitive, because at every iteration we have at least one program point that goes one unit down in the semilattice. And it is not necessary that a semilattice with infinite values can have a finite height. For example, the constant propagation DFA, it has infinite values. The constant level has, well, it has infinite constants, and still it has height of 3. Top, the level of all constants, and then bottom. Okay, lecture with 99, family of transfer functions. We have now finished with the semilattice part of a DFA, the generalized DFA framework that we discussed long ago. DFA is defined by 3 elements, the F, V, and a meet operator. V and the meet operator constitute the semilattice, which we have discussed. Now we're going to discuss the family of transfer functions. The transfer function for any instruction or a basic block is one of the functions in a set F. The set F is called a family of transfer functions. This set F should have the following properties. Every small f belonging to F is a function going from V to V, where V is the set of values. F should contain the identity function. Identity function is a function F such that f of x equal to x for all x in the set of values V. Why should identity function be there in F? Because we need to support. For example, we need to support a function for the NOP instruction, for example. Another property, next property, F should be closed under composition. Basically, if we have 2 elements F1, F2 belonging to F, then the composition of F1 and F2 should also belong to F. This is so that we can generate a summary. Okay, so for examples of some F, we can specify all functions of F using gen and kill sets, where a pair of gen and kill would define a unique function. A unique pair of gen and kill would define a unique function such that F1 Fi of x equal to x minus kill of I union gen of I for some statement Si or a basic block Bi. So we can prove that any family of transfer function that is defined using gen and kill sets satisfies those three properties that we discussed right before. The identity function can be simply specified by gen and kill being empty sets. Phi composition is supported. We showed that very easily, where we can get a new kill set that is just the union of those the kill the we can get a new kill set from the composition of two functions, by which will just be the union of those two things and those two previous kill sets, and we can get a new gen function as well. It can be shown. Monotonicity of a DFA framework. We earlier discussed that a semilattice must have finite height to guarantee convergence of the fixed point iteration algorithm. F also has some properties that it has to satisfy to guarantee convergence. Okay, then we discussed an example for an example where we just showed a DFA framework where the set of values is true, false, and meet is the logical AND. Then we proved that V, meet, and F. The meet is the logical and set of values is true, false, and then we basically showed that the semi-lattice V, meet satisfies these properties, and F also satisfies those three properties that we discussed in the last lecture. And the semi-lattice diagram is true, arrow down false, because logical and is the meet operator, which means less than equal to operator means true is less than false. Then we showed a simple sample program, and where we showed a simple sample program, and we showed that even though the semi-lattice diagram and F satisfy those properties, the fixed point iteration algorithm will not converge for that program when we use this semi-lattice diagram. We basically use the function where we have a basic block, and below that we have another basic block which loops into itself and then exit. So since that the second basic block, it loops into itself, and the meet operator is the logical and, the start of that basic block will oscillate between true and false simultaneously. When we apply the fixed point iteration algorithm, the start of the program point at the start of the looped basic block, we will keep oscillating between true and false. This is because the meet operator is the logical and.
I'll just correct you there, Anirudh. It's not
sorry, transfer function. It was a transfer function which was the not. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. We had also defined a transfer function. I'm sorry. I missed that. Where we had defined a family of transfer function, the identity and the not. We had defined the family of transfer function at four functions: identity and not, and okay. So sure. Sorry. So we have a program where we have the first basic block is B1, and its transfer function is identity, and the looped and the basic block which is a looping, it has a transfer function that is a not. Yes. Okay. So since the looped basic block has a transfer function which is a not, its first program point keeps oscillating between true and false. Even though that transfer function satisfies all the properties, all the three properties that we discussed before, right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So clearly we can see that the transfer function that is not, it keeps it results in the top and the bottom program points of B2 being oscillating between true and false, because this is not. So clearly we need another condition for the transfer function, the family of transfer functions to hold, so that the finite point iteration, the fixed point iteration algorithm can converge. Okay. Otherwise, this algorithm will go into an infinite loop and will never converge. So we need some constraints on F so that the fixed point iteration is guaranteed to converge. The problem arises because the not function we used before, it kept oscillating. It kept oscillating the program points, the values of the program points. So this property we seek, it's called monotonicity of the DFA framework. A framework, the F, V, meet operator is monotone if and only if x less than equal to y implies fx less than equal to fy, where f is a transfer function belonging to the set of family of transfer functions capital F. Clearly in our example, it did not satisfy this monotonicity property because because false was less than equal to 2, but not of false was not less than equal to not of true. So not was not monotone in the set family of transfer functions. Equivalently, we can define this monotonicity with respect to meet operator. Framework is monotone if and only if fx meet y less than equal to fx meet fy for all f in the family of transfer functions. And it's very easy to see how this is equivalent to the previous definition that was defined with respect to the less than equal to operator. Then we discussed the reaching definition example where the family of transfer function was defined by the gen and kill sets, and we could it could be proven very easily that this family of transfer function is monotone using this definition we defined just earlier. Distributivity of a DFA framework. This is another concept that we define. First of all, a monotonicity does not mean that f of x is less than equal to x. If we apply f on some x, that doesn't mean that we go down. But it just shows that if we apply an f on two different values, and if those x1 and x2 and x1 is less than x2, and it is guaranteed that f of x1 is less than equal to f of x2. That's what monotonicity guarantees. For example, for the reaching definition example, if gen was some one definition d1 and kill was some one definition d2, then f of d2 would be d1, which is not less than equal to d2. We cannot compare d1 and d2 in the reaching definitions DFA. A special case for monotonicity. Okay. Okay, so basically we define a new condition, a more special condition called distributivity of a DFA framework. If a framework is distributive, then it doesn't matter if we apply the transfer function first, then the meet operator, or we apply the meet operator first, then the transfer function. Both will yield the same results in the fixed point iteration algorithm. For example, we can prove that that the gen and kill sets that the family of transfer function defined by the gen and kill sets is monotone. We proved that last lecture. And we can also prove that the reaching definitions DFA is distributive. Where distributive. So now we define distributivity. A framework f v comma meet operator is distributive if and only if f of x meet y is equal to f of x meet f of y. Note that in monotonicity we had defined that a framework is monotone if and only if f of x meet y is less than equal to f of x meet f of y. But now we defined a more specialized version that a framework is distributive if f of x meet y is equal to f of x meet f of y for all f belonging to f. For such frameworks, we can just apply them. It doesn't matter if we apply the meet operator first, then we apply the transfer function, or we apply the transfer function first, then the meet operator, because both yield the same results. F of x meet y is equal to f of x meet f of y. Clearly, distributivity implies monotonicity, but monotonicity does not imply distributivity. And now we discuss the constant propagation example. Where okay, so basically constant propagation, in the constant propagation example we had earlier discussed that there are two ways we can define the transfer function. One is using the kill set and gen set where we do not see what kind of statement it is. We just use gen and we just generate and we just kill off some sets and then apply a set of the new constants that are defined. Okay. Option 2 is more nuanced, where we define a transfer function using a more nuanced and more precise transfer function, where we basically see what kind of expression the statement is. For example, if there is a statement as c equal to a plus b, and a plus b are already constants that we have defined, then we can define c as a constant as well. This is a more precise definition transfer function, but it requires more complicated transfer function definition. Option 1 is distributive. Previously when we proved that for the reaching definitions DFA, the transfer function was monotone as well as distributive. That was a very general proof, and it applied for all families of transfer functions that could be defined using gen and kill sets. So in general, for all families of transfer functions that can be defined using gen and kill sets, those are distributive, and it can be proven very generally. For option 2, the option 2 transfer function family of transfer functions, which is a more precise transfer function, it is monotone, because if x1 has fewer known constant values than x2, then f of x1 will also have fewer known constant values, constant relationships than f of x2, because we cannot create new constant relationships magically. It will only add the constant relationships that are those there in the statement. And if we already had lower lower constant relationships than some other case, then the transfer function would increase the number of constant relationships in one case and not increase in the other. And we can prove that the second option of the transfer functions, with the more precise family of transfer functions, it is not distributive, using a simple contradictory case where we have a statement z equal to a plus b, and we have when we have two previously known definitions, x1 equal to a equal to 2, b equal to 3, and x2 has two constant defined, a equal to 3 and b equal to 2. And if we apply the transfer function on x1 and x2, we'll get so basically we'll get x1 f of s of x1 equal to a equal to 2, comma b equal to 3, and z equal to 5. Because it's a more precise transfer function, we can identify that z is also a constant, because the statement was z equal to a plus b. And f of x of x2 would be a equal to 3, b equal to 2, and z equal to 5. And then if we apply the meet operator on these two transfer functions, we can clearly see that we'll only get z equal to 5. And if we apply the transfer function, and if we apply the meet operator first, then we apply the transfer function, f of s of x1 meet x2. X1 meet x2 is phi, clearly, because those are two different sets, and f of s of phi is equal to phi. So we can clearly see that f of s of x1 meet x2 is less than f of s of x1 meet f of s of x2. So it is not equal, which means it is monotone but not distributive. So we can see that in the constant propagation example, the kill set and gen set of this family of transfer function is distributive as well as monotone. And the option 2, where we define a more nuanced and more precise family of transfer functions, it is monotone but not distributive. Operational implications of distributivity. Here we just revisit the idea that for distributive transfer functions, it doesn't matter if you apply the meet operator first and then the transfer function, or if you apply the transfer function first and then the meet operator. But if it's not distributive, then the order matters. The order where we apply the transfer function and the meet, it matters, because we'll get different results. DFA iteration algorithm properties. Okay, now we discuss the properties of the DFA iteration algorithm. Given a data flow framework, FV, meet, which is monotone and has a finite height semi-lattice. For this data flow framework, which has a monotone family of transfer function and has a finite height semi-lattice, it is guaranteed that if FP iteration algorithm will guarantee it is guaranteed that the FP iteration algorithm will converge for this data flow algorithm. It can be proven. Moreover, another assertion that we make is that if we initialize all the interior points of the program to the top value, then the algorithm will yield a maximum fixed point solution of the DFA equations. Maximum fixed point is a criterion for precision of the solution that we get from the algorithm. Now we discuss the maximum fixed point solution. The solution is a value associated. Now we first define a solution. A solution is a value associated with each program point. The MFP solution has the maximum value at each program point, such that these values satisfy the equations for the transfer function and the meet equations. The statement I said above, maximum MFP solution has the maximum value at each program point. The maximum here is based on the less than equal to operator. Then we discussed an example in constant propagation, where we showed that we showed a typical program, and we showed that a typical program usually having two statements: x is defined 3, and then y is defined z plus omega, z plus w. Then for this then we defined then we said that the top except the top program point, the top program point would have the value phi, and all other program points would have the value x equal to 3. That is the maximum fixed point solution. And we also showed another solution that would be a maximum point solution, that would not be a maximum fixed point solution but would be a fixed point solution, as in that solution would satisfy all the equations of meet operator and the family of transfer functions, but it would not be a maximum fixed point solution because all the program points do not have the maximum value possible at that program point. Now we try to explain that the fixed point iteration algorithm will converge with the MFP solution. The value at any program point can only decrease in the fixed point iteration algorithm. These we start all the unknown values, the interior values except the boundary condition values, with the top value. These justify convergence. Basically because the height of the semi-lattice is finite, and we have already discussed the convergences. So basically, since we start all the unknown values with the top value, and since every value can only go down, and since we have a finite height, we can justify that the algorithm will always converge. And the values do not come down unless some constraints drive them down. These constraints are due to the family of transfer functions satisfying monotonicity and those three properties. This justifies the maximum fixed point solution. Then we try to prove the two statements that we stated before, that the data flow framework, which is monotone and has finite height semi-lattice, is guaranteed to converge on fixed point iteration, and we will yield the maximum fixed point solution from this algorithm. We prove that using induction. We prove that using induction. Okay, so we were provided a proof sketch based on induction here. So what we have to prove is that the values at all program points at the k plus 1th iteration are no greater than the values at the kth iteration. So the base case here is that the values after the first iteration are no greater than the initial values, which is trivial because all initial non-boundary values are the top values, and they will go down. At least one of them will go down. They will never go up. So we can be sure that after the first iteration, all the values will be no greater than all the top values, all the top values at all the program points. Induction hypothesis is that after the kth iteration, the values are no greater than those after the k minus 1th iteration. And then the induction step, we need to show that the values after the k plus 1th iteration are no greater than those after the kth iteration using the induction hypothesis. Okay, so we showed the sketch using a forward DFA without loss of generality because we can equivalently convert this proof for the backward DFA. Okay, so basically, so there are two steps in the fixed point iteration algorithm. First, we apply the meet operator, then we apply the transfer function. For the meet operator, n of s equal to meet over all predecessors out of p, where p is a predecessor of s. Let n of s I and out of si denote the value of n and s and out of s after the ith iteration. We need to prove that basically the I plus 1th iteration values of n of s and I of s are less than the previous iteration values. So n of s at the k plus 1th iteration is a meet over all the predecessors out of p of the kth iteration. The out of p, the values of out of p that we have for the kth iteration, we have to meet over all of them to generate n of s for the k plus 1th iteration. And we know that out of P of K is less than equal to out of P of K minus 1 from the induction hypothesis. So meet over out of P at the kth iteration is obviously less than equal to meet over all predecessors or of out of P for the K minus 1 at iteration, because out of P of K is less than equal to out of P of K minus 1 for all P, for all statements really. So if we meet over all of them, we will get a result that is less than equal to then the values at the kth iteration. That can be very easily proven. So so from this statement we can say that n of s at the k plus 1th iteration is less than equal to n of s at the kth iteration. Now the second step of the FP iteration, algorithm is that we apply the transfer function. Out of s for the k plus 1th iteration is fs of n of s for the k plus 1th iteration. That is what we do. Fs is one of the functions of the transform of the set of transfer functions, and we know that n of s of the k plus 1th iteration is less than equal to n of s of the kth at the kth iteration from the induction hypothesis. And well, no, we proved this. We proved this before. We proved it just before that n of s at the k plus 1th iteration is less than equal to n of s for the kth iteration. We just proved this using the meet operator. And from monotonicity, we know that f of s of n of s k plus 1 is less than equal to f of s of n of s at the kth iteration from monotonicity. Since f of s of n of s k plus 1 is out of s k plus 1 and f of s of n of s k is out of s k, so from this statement we can prove that out of s k plus 1 is less than equal to out of s of k. So well, we have proved the induction step, so we have proved our what if we had set out to prove that the values at all program points at the k plus 1th iteration are no greater than the values at the kth iteration. We have proved this using induction. Also, since the semi-lattice has finite height and at each iteration set of values are no greater than those in the previous iteration, we just proved this algorithm is guaranteed to converge as we can only go down in the semi-lattice. Now, the second point we have to prove is that the iterative algorithm yields the maximum fixed point solution. The sketch of this proof is that based on 2 points, the algorithm terminates only if all equations, the family of transfer functions as well as the meet equations, those are satisfied, means we get a fixed point solution. This algorithm yields a fixed point solution. Because this is from the design of the algorithm. This is the only case where the loop terminates, the loop of the algorithm terminates. The second point is that if an equation is not satisfied, the value at the program point where the equation is not satisfied, it is driven down by only that amount so that that equation becomes satisfied and no more than that. This justifies that we get the maximum possible value at all program points because we go down by only that amount that we need to satisfy all the equations. This shows that we get the maximum fixed point solution from this algorithm. Okay. Lecture 103, understanding the maximum fixed point solution. Maximum fixed point solution represents the most precise maximum solution that satisfies the data flow equations. There are some other criterions for ideality. For example, the ideal solution. What is the ideal solution? Given the transfer function of each statement or CFG node, we can construct the transfer function of a CFG path, which is basically we compose the transfer function over all the nodes that we encounter on those TFG path repeatedly. So basically, TFG of an empty path would be at the identity function. The TFG of a path P equal to S1, S2, S3 till Sn, where Si is a statement that we go through in the path, and this path might have potential cycles as well. It might have multiple cycles. We can keep oscillating on the same cycle for 5 or 6 times. Doesn't matter. The transfer function for a path P equal to S1, S2 dot 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 Sn would be f of S1 composed with f of S2 composed with f of S3 going on composed with f of Sn. The transfer function of this path would be this. We just compose the transfer function for each statement again and again till we get a new transfer function. This is Well, since the family of transfer function is closed under composition, this transfer function would lie in that family of transfer functions. So we can use this transfer function. That's a valid transfer function. So the ideal solution is defined as at node n, the value Vn would be meet over all execution paths P that may reach n Fp of n. So we at node n, we take the set of all execution paths that may reach n. Execution here, execution word is important. If there is a path that may never be executed, we do not consider that path. We take the set of all execution paths, that is paths that may execute in the program, and we construct the composed transfer functions of those paths, and we apply those transfer functions on the node n, and we use those transfer functions at those node n, and we just use a meet operator on all these values. The ideal solution would be the value of Vn would be the meet over all those execution paths Sp of n. Then we use the constant propagation algorithm, where we find out we use a constant propagation example, where we use an example program where we find out that the maximum fixed point solution is phi at all program points, but the ideal fixed point. So we use a program where we use a condition that is always true, but we can never find that out using the fixed point iteration algorithm. We use a statement y equal to square of x, and when we use a condition y greater than equal to 0. So clearly, we can see that y greater than equal to 0 will always be true; it will never be false. So in terms of execution paths, the y greater than equal to 0 equal to false path will never be executed. So it will never be considered in the ideal solution. But in the maximum fixed point solution, that path will be considered, because we can never figure out using the fixed point iteration algorithm that the y greater than 0 equal to false path will never be executed. We cannot figure that out using that algorithm. The ideal solution would ignore that y greater than equal to false path, and will only take the true path, which means we'll get a more precise solution where in one program point we'll have a constant x equal to 3. We could not have had that constant in the maximum fixed point solution, because in that if in the false path we would have x equal to some other constant, then if we apply the meet on those two values, then you will get phi. Precisely identifying all the program points that may reach through execution a program point is an undecidable problem in general. It can be proven using the Turing model of computation that we cannot figure out the set of program points that we cannot figure out the set of program paths that may reach that point through execution. We cannot figure that out. So ideal is a theoretical concept that can be used to assess the preciseness of a definition of a preciseness criterion. We define another preciseness criterion called MOP, which is over approximating ideal. Here, which is the definition of MOP is meet over paths, where this is basically how we define ideal, identical to how we define ideal, except here we consider all the paths that may reach n, not necessarily via execution. We do not consider the execution criterion that we considered in ideal, because it's an undecidable problem in general. We just consider all the paths that may reach a node n, and then we apply the transfer function on the transfer function of all those paths on that node, and then we meet on all, and then we just apply a meet on all these values that we get from the transfer function. Unlike ideal, MOP includes paths that may never be executed, because we just do not consider that criterion. Identifying MOP solution is undecidable in general, because we cannot decide the set of execution paths that may reach a program point. But identifying MOP is not undecidable, because we just take the set of all paths that may reach a program point n to get the MOP value at that program point. then we just discussed an example where we found out that the what is the MFP value, the ideal value, and the MOP value at the end of a program, at the end of a program. Then we use the constant propagation example. Okay, so basically then we stated that the MOP value is not necessarily equal to the MFP value. It might seem so initially, but in general, the MFP value is less than equal to the MOP value, and it is less than equal to the ideal value, and it can be shown. And we proved using the using a typical example of a constant propagation DFA in a simple program where we got the MFP value as pi, the ideal value is a equal to 3, b equal to 2, and z equal to 5, and the MOP value is z equal to 5. So clearly we can see that MFP is less than equal to MOP is less than equal to ideal for that example. So this is the end of lecture 103.
Okay, thanks, Anirudh. I think yeah, this was an excellent summary. So thank you for the nice, detailed and clear summary. I think we will not do the summary for 104 to 107 now. Maybe we'll do another session for that. Let's open the floor for questions on the material that we discussed so far.